Hey everyone, and welcome to another info session. My name is Steve, and I'm an accredited exercise physiologist and exercise scientist. And today, what I'll be talking to you all about is recovery strategies for exercise. So I guess what we'll be talking about throughout these slides. We'll start off with the common effects that you might feel post a workout, and how to recover from those using some other recovery strategies, and potentially when it might be suited to actually see a doctor. So let's talk a little bit about the common effects of exercise. Now, this is really quite normal. I want to talk about this delayed onset muscle soreness. Some of you may have heard of it as DOMS. It's that soreness that you tend to feel, 12 to 24 hours post a workout. That's when it starts, I should say, and can peak at around 48 hours post workout. So this is that feeling you get when you're really tight and as I've written here, muscles feel tender, they're sore. I need to emphasize, however, that soreness does not equal pain, okay? So this is that tender feeling, but it's not like oh, that's unbearable. So this can also be characterized by, a reduction in range of motion, or that stiffness that you'll feel. Why does this actually happen in the first place? What are these DOMs, I should say? So the DOMs that you experience are just essentially normal micro tears that you get in your muscles from higher intensity exercise. So let's just think of a bicep curl or something like that. After you do your 4 sets of bicep curls or whatever, the following day you might notice that it's really difficult to fully straighten your arm, okay? That is caused from little micro tears in the biceps. And your body, that feeling that you're getting, that tightness, is because of this localized inflammation, okay? So that's that, I guess, increase in blood flow and inflammatory markers or molecules, I should say, which make you feel quite tight. This is really essential, however, in that repairing process. If you don't have a lot of inflammation, your body isn't sending an appropriate amount of proteins and isn't going to heal your muscles as well. So we'll talk about the next part that you might commonly feel. It's just that feeling of being physically and mentally drained, okay? So this can begin roughly 12 hours post-exercise as well. And it's usually a sign of excessive workout intensity or an excessive jump in intensity. This can present itself above. We get localized inflammation, so it's that specific area. Full body weakness, you'll feel the effects of your workout full body rather than having just done bicep curls. You feel it everywhere. So I have in brackets the grip test, and this is how I can tell that I've worked a little bit too hard. If I try to squeeze my fist the day after, and I physically can't contract it as hard, I can't squeeze my fist as hard, that's how I'm starting to know that I'm getting this bit of full body weakness, okay? So if I do a leg workout, you probably wouldn't normally expect that your grip gets weaker, but if you've worked exceptionally hard, it is very common to not have that strong grip strength. So that's a good test. Additionally, you can get some upper respiratory illnesses. So this just means colds. So yeah, running noses, things like that, just purely after a workout, just because your body is in a little bit of a state of shock at this moment in time. What else can we get? So we can get some sore / painful joints, okay? So this is moving a little bit away from the soreness you feel in your muscles. This is now feeling it in your joints itself. So this can begin during the workout or even immediately after, okay? You generally can tend to tell that your joints are getting sore during the workout, I find. This is usually due to an increase increase in intensity and increase in impact. So intensity just means that you're lifting, say, more weights out of nowhere for more repetitions. And that impact is when we're getting more loading on the joint, okay? So actual jump squats or longer runs where we load our joint more. Tendons, ligaments, where do we feel this, I should say? So in your tendons, in your ligaments, around the joint capsule. So you've also got some other fibers holding the joint capsule together. You might feel it in that. the deeper muscles, so especially in your hips, I'm sure you all would have heard of this piriformis syndrome where you've got these little muscles inside your hips that are just feeling really tight. So that, as well as cartilage, so the meniscus in your knees or even around your shoulders, it starts to feel stiff. This is all because it's just not used to that increase in intensity, okay? So this is where we really need to be aware of slowly progressing our exercise, okay? Slowly increasing the weights. There's an idea that you can use about a 10% rule each week. It's more or less 10%. For some people, it might only be 5%. That 10% is just to ensure that you're not going a crazy high amount from one session to another. Lastly, now, this isn't so much a common effect of training, but it is commonly heard of. So I have still put it here. Overtraining, okay? We all get really worried about, are we working towards this overtraining feeling? Am I training too hard, okay? So what actually is overtraining? It's that excessive muscle soreness persisting longer with no strength improvement from a workout, okay? So this is where, let's just say the normal soreness you get is about a 4 out of 10, okay? It's sore, you can feel it, but you can definitely still live with it. This overtraining is where that soreness is around that 7 to 8 out of 10, where it's starting to get quite debilitating. And you notice that your body just isn't recovering as much from that workout, which is why I said no strength improvement. You'd think that normally after you train, you get better, but not in this particular case. Additionally, we've got that restless sleep, okay? So your body isn't actually able to get to sleep that easily because you're on quite a high alert at this point. You will have significantly reduced motivation and energy to actually train. Another really interesting one is that regressing mental health, okay? So this is kind of ties into that reduced motivation and energy, that you just have that low mood more often than not. We get the increased occurrence of sickness. So this is where I touched on that upper respiratory infections, so such as a cold or runny nose. Then we have an elevated heart rate, like especially in the morning, okay? Now this particular heart rate, I should mention, is a resting heart rate, okay? We expect your heart rate to increase with exercise anyway. But if you notice that you wake up, and the first thing in the morning that you wake up, you notice your heart rate is just beating really quickly, that could be a sign in addition to all of this. Lastly, well, what actually causes this overtraining is it's really excessive exercise with a minimal amount of rest, okay? So if you feel like you are working too hard and you're not resting enough, 2 ways to go about it, really simple. Either just reduce the intensity or reduce the amount of exercise that you do, in addition to increasing that rest time. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. Actually, here it is. So let's follow this green line to start off with, okay? This is this normal response that we really hope to achieve, okay? So let's just say we start off here. It's our first ever session. With any workout, our body's ability or our body's function straight after that reduces, no matter what. You need to have a stimulus to actually improve, okay? So you need to make sure that you go down, right? You've just worked your muscles and everything. Then you need to give yourself an adequate amount of time to recover. And notice how when you get back to your normal level now, it's actually a little bit higher than what it was before, okay? So you do that again. You work out, and as such you go down, and then you rest again, and now you're up here from before. Same thing, that process keeps going on. That's a relatively simplified version of it, but it does help to teach the idea of exercise performance and recovery. Now, if we talk about this overtraining concept, still we're starting at the same point. We work as hard, but we don't give ourselves enough time to recover. And as such, we're only up here. So now we're actually already below what we were at before. And then we work out again, and we get down even lower, recover again, but same. It's just nowhere near as good until that keeps on happening. And that just shows that your body is just not recovering from what you're doing and is leading to that overtraining state. So this is what we want to avoid. We want to make sure that we work hard, but we have an adequate amount of recovery, okay? Really important to remember that one. Let's talk about some recovery methods. And I like to always start with sleep because in my opinion, this is the most important one. This is when your body starts to release those helpful hormones to recover. And you only really get this at a high quantity when you're sleeping. So we want to aim for 8 hours per night. And then I will touch on this a little bit as well. That deeper sleep that we get is required for that physical recovery, okay? So recovering from muscle soreness and all that, improving muscle size. That deep sleep, right, is over here. So let's talk about this. You fall asleep, right? Let's just say hypothetically, we'll keep this really easy. That's 12 o'clock at night. You fall asleep at 12 o'clock at night, and then after about 1 hour, you get into the stage 4, this deep sleep, okay? This is where the majority of your muscle recovery takes place. That as well as stage 3. So you get that sleep, which is fantastic. And then this REM sleep, which is beneficial for mental recovery, that happens about another 2 hours after you sleep, okay? So your mind starts to come back up into that stage 1. And this is where you tend to dream quite a fair bit, okay? Because your mind is really working well at this point at recovering too. So your mind recovers there. You only had that REM sleep for about half an hour or so. You come back down into your stage 4, okay? And then you slowly come back up. And now notice this REM sleep is a little bit longer in duration, okay? It's about an hour now. More mental recovery, okay? And then you come back down into stage 3. So still a little bit of muscle recovery, but not as much as before. You come back up into REM and you're mentally recovering even longer. So this is why 8 hours a night is so beneficial, is because a lot of this mental recovery actually comes at that second half of your sleep. So what you'll notice is once we're 5 hours into our sleep, 4 hours of that is, sorry, I should say once we're 4 hours into your sleep, another 4 hours altogether is that REM sleep, okay? So most of your mental recovery, as I just mentioned. Now, how can we actually create an environment where this 8-hour sleep cycle is possible? So it's really important. We should be creating a sleep schedule, okay? So based on how you wake up in the day, you know, if you have work starting at 9 o'clock, you might want to be waking up at 7:30, okay? So try to create a schedule where you fall asleep by 11:30 each night. Some strategies to help with that: you need to be avoiding that caffeine after 4 p.m. because caffeine can actually stay in your system for about 12 hours. So we want to try and reduce that amount of stimulation that you feel later on. Do something relaxing before bed so you can have a nice like warm bath, some meditation, or even reading. And then finally, you want to make sure that your room that you're sleeping in is as dark as possible, okay? So we don't want any like flickering lights if possible. And we, of course, don't really want to be having our TV on late at night in our room. So those are all some strategies that you want to improve with that sleep. So some key takeaways, I guess I should point out. First half of your sleep is primarily to do with that physical adaptations. And then the second half is more mental recovery. Some other recovery strategies, of course, we want to be able to replenish our body, okay? So that means drinking plenty of water, eating healthy carbs, which I know a lot of people are quite scared to do. Just remember that your workouts are primarily fueled with carbohydrates. So get in healthy carbohydrates, your rice, your wholemeal breads, oats, things like that. And of course, get your protein in, okay? If you don't have a sufficient amount of protein in your body, your muscles aren't going to be able to recover and adapt as quickly. Next, we have active recovery. So we don't want to be sitting or lying still just simply because it hurts. We want to be going for walks. We want to be doing yoga classes, things that will really promote blood flow and reduce that stiffness in your joints that you might feel from, you know, what we talked about, delayed onset muscle soreness. So keep moving, if I can mention that. Next, we go into some like little other strategies. So massage and or like foam rolling. So the idea of massages and foam rolling is that we target these sore areas to promote blood flow to the area. If we can promote blood flow, we then promote protein going to that area, as well as a reduction in stiffness. And there is evidence to show that this foam rolling and massaging reduces DOMS. I should mention as well, we do have the lovely Tam working with us on performing trigger point release home workouts that you can follow along. All that really requires generally like a foam roller or like a little tennis ball to get into like deep positions there. So check those videos out. I highly recommend them. Anti-inflammatories. So this is an interesting one because we tend to think if we're feeling quite sore, why don't we just take some anti-inflammatories and feel a little bit better? Of course, we can see a reduction in inflammation and perceived soreness. But remember how I kind of touched on it before. Inflammation is a really important part in recovery. So if we stop getting that blood flow to the area, we're not going to recover as well. We tend to feel a little bit stiffer for longer. So personally, I would suggest not taking anti-inflammatories. Hot and cold baths. This has a bit of a personal preference. I know for me, I absolutely hate cold baths or cold showers, so I just won't do it. But heat, you know, if you have a nice hot bath, it can promote that blood flow again, which I actually think is really good, and it is quite relaxing. Whereas the cold is theorized to, again, reduce inflammation. Whether that's the goal of this, I'm not sure, but I would be preferencing heat. So finishing off, when should we actually be seeing a doctor? At what point do we know that we should see a doctor? Well, firstly, you might notice that with like all of our online videos, we've always been saying, you know, make sure that you see a medical practitioner or a medical professional, I should say, to ensure that you're safe to train. What we really mean by that is to ensure that your like cardiorespiratory health is good. So we need to make sure that your heart function is good, that your lung function is good. They can also, like GPs can do like assessments on, you know, your risk of diabetes, your risk of kidney disease, little things like that that can affect exercise capacity. What you can see underneath it though, is that the risk of cardiac events, so I'm talking to more of a heart attack, is really quite low, but going from 0 to hero is never the safest option. So if you're someone that hasn't done exercise for a very long time, you generally tend to be a bit more sedentary, you'd want to make sure that you're okay to start exercising safely. So be aware of this. Now, when are some other times to see a doctor after training? This is when I've spoken about the symptoms of overtraining, okay? If you feel that prolonged soreness that just isn't going away after about a week, that increase in fatigue, you know, you're feeling more sick, you're feeling a little bit more symptoms of depression, this is definitely a chance that you'll need to be seeing a doctor. But that overall guideline, reduce your overall workout output first, okay? So reduce the exercise intensity, increase the rest. It goes back to that little graph that I showed you. Next is this prolonged pain, okay? So this isn't just specifically overtraining. I'm thinking more like specific back pain, okay? You can notice something specifically in your back, and this pain lasts longer than 4 days. You might want to get that checked out. You may have, like, say, associated bruising. Let's just say, once again, it's in your arms, okay? You have a little bit of bruising along your biceps. This could be due to like a muscle or tendon strain, okay? That bruising you get is with a bigger tear in the muscles. So you might want to get that checked out and learn some strategies as to how to rehab from it. And then finally, when the pain is felt during the action of said muscle, okay? So let's take once again our biceps, really easy one to think about. If you do a bicep curl and you feel like that is painful, it's not just sore, it is painful, that is when you know that you should probably be getting that checked out if it's longer than 4 days. Same thing, like if you feel it in your biceps, but you're doing, say, a leg extension exercise, you're probably not going to feel it in your biceps. So you will only feel it during the action of said muscle, okay? So I really do hope that you got some valuable information from this, just identifying some of the common side effects from exercise and how it actually is, generally speaking, quite normal. And then some strategies to recover from it. And then, of course, when you should be seeing your doctor. So hope you all take care, and we'll be speaking to you all soon. Take care. Bye.